Penguin Random House Audio presents The Altruists by Andrew Ridker, read for you by Mark Bramhall. For Paul and Susan Ridker. Among animals, we're the aberration. Want appropriates us, sends us out dressed in ragged tulle, but won't tell where it last buried the acorn or bone. Mary Jo Bang, Apology for Want. The Alter family was beset by fire. All autumn there were flare-ups, happenings, the kind of uncoordinated auguries that look ominous only in retrospect. In September, Ethan singed his thumb trying to light a cigarette. 3 days later, a faulty burner caused the range in the kitchen to malfunction. The igniter made an anxious sound, a string of desperate ticks, before sparking a flame that caught Francine's cuff. And at Arthur's 50th birthday, a modest gathering on the back lawn of the house, a trick candle fell from the carrot cake and set a few dead leaves alight, which Maggie stomped out with her foot. The largest of that fall's infernos occurred one Thursday evening in November. Francine was in her office with Marcus and Margot Washington, a pair of married intellectual property lawyers with a boutique firm. It was their first session. They had been referred to Francine by a mutual friend, but the couple's reputation preceded them. The previous April, they had successfully defended an emerging peer-to-peer file-sharing service against a hip-hop crew behind a popular song with an unprintable title. But the Washingtons did not look like two people at the peak of professional success. Margot's foot bounced restlessly in place. Marcus stared at his lap. They had come to Francine in need of mediation. "You understand the delicacy of our situation," Margot said, clutching the handle of her purse. "We can't have anyone knowing about this." Francine understood clearly enough. Margot's roots in St. Louis were deep, her family history a veritable fable of inheritance and birthright. She was said to be descended from the French grandee Pierre Leclerc. According to legend, Leclerc, a fur trader with 1 million acres in colonial St. Louis, freed one of his concubines, Bathsheba, and put land grants in her name in order to protect himself from creditors. But Bathsheba flipped the property and took Leclerc to court, inspiring generations of lawsuits over his estate. For years, Leclerc's descendants were the embattled, flamboyant characters at the forefront of the city's aristocracy. The Washingtons were visible figures in what remained of St. Louis society, and all the more so for being one of 2 black couples who lived on Lenox Place, a gated street near the central West End. "Of course," Francine nodded. Margot scrutinized the room. "Do you always work from home?" "Since we moved in," Francine said. 4 years ago." 4 years, Margot said, and then repeated it. 4 years, weighing the measure of that time. Before Arthur moved the family west from Boston, the space that was now Francine's office had been a sunroom, a structural addition on the western end of the house. One wall was made almost entirely of glass, through which Francine watched the scorched leaves of red maples fall one after another all season long. On the office door, facing out, an engraved brass nameplate insisted on its present function. Arthur had protested the cost of the plate, as well as the acoustic panels on the walls, but Francine ignored him. She understood the value of discretion and of putting up a solid front. The home office was a consolation of sorts, the primary condition in her agreement to move. She needed a place in which to foster her career, having left behind a well-paid appointment at a private clinic in Newton. Though she had been reduced to working out of a small room in her house, Her name was gradually coming to mean something in the suburbs of University City, Clayton, and Ladue. "I haven't had any complaints yet," she added. Margot nodded decisively and set her bag beside her. "All right," she said. "I'll begin." She moved herself back on the couch and squared her shoulders. "If you must know, and I suppose you must, my husband has lately cultivated something of a habit, a proclivity, which I refuse to indulge, and which threatens to undo our marriage." "I'd like to hear it in Marcus's words," said Francine. "Marcus? Are you comfortable sharing with me?" Marcus squinted into the tangerine dusk light shining through the panes. "He won't tell you." "Marcus?" Francine tried again. "He refuses to engage," said Margot. "But something must be done." She paused. "So here it is. My husband likes to play dress-up. He finds this erotic." Francine looked again at Marcus, but he was silent. She pinched the inside of her cheek between her teeth. "All right," she said. "Marcus, it would really help if you could say something." "He says he likes the feeling, the confinement. He says the rubber's like a second skin." "The rubber?" "Latex, actually. Yes, he likes to dress up in a bodysuit and pretend that he's a household pet." "So, okay." Francine shifted in her chair. "Marcus likes to dress up like a dog. Not dog. Household pet. Sometimes he's a dog, sometimes he's a cat, and sometimes he's a hamster, which is ridiculous, because hamsters live in cages and run on wheels, whereas Marcus is a well-regarded trial lawyer with a firm to run." Margot dipped her head inside her bag and rooted around until she emerged with a black face mask, 2 long ears drooping from the top. "Put it on," she demanded. "That's not necessary," said Francine. "He likes it so much he can show you what he looks like. Put it on, Marcus." Before Francine could interject, the mask was in Marcus's hands. She watched as he eagerly pulled it over his head and adjusted it until his eyes were aligned with the holes. Do you see what I'm dealing with here?" Francine nodded. She was beginning to get a sense of things. By and large, she saw 2 kinds of clients in the well-heeled suburbs where she made her living: those with legitimate issues to work through, and those whose neurotic temperaments had them convinced that even the slightest change of mood was cause for alarm, that a dose of unhappiness was surely depression, that a swell of panic was no less than clinical anxiety rearing its twitchy head. The Washingtons, she reasoned, likely fell into the latter camp. They were probably just looking to be reassured that they were normal. Francine had been doling out a lot of reassurance lately, and it bored her. She wanted something she could invest in. She had been preoccupied all day, nervous, as she always was, with new referrals, eager to make a good impression. And for what? A little midlife kink? Life, with its routine skirmishes, was difficult enough. Take Maggie. She was throwing a fit over her role in the Thanksgiving pageant. She'd wanted to be an Indian. That nomenclature, however incorrect, still persisted at Captain Elementary in the year 2000, and had been cast instead as the cornucopia. Ethan, meanwhile, had taken to locking himself in his bedroom. He had removed himself from the family and replaced them with a computer he'd been cautious enough to purchase only after Y2K turned out to be a whole lot of worry over.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?